Hello Yeat Athletics, my name is Jordan Lewis and I'm a trainee sport and exercise psychologist. I am from Yate and I used to compete in shot put and came 11th in English schools. Through this experience and my further education in psychology and sports psychology, I am now in a position to give something back to a club that means so much to the community. In this video, I want to give an overview of several useful and hopefully informative psychological tips during this lockdown. I know it seems like we may be heading out of this world of lockdown, but we still may be subject to many social restrictions for a while, and hopefully these bits of advice and guidance will help you in your life. The first thing I'd like to talk about is openness and acceptance. It is important to acknowledge where we are in our current situation being in lockdown, as well as how this is making you feel and how you are getting on during this time. You are not alone, other people may be feeling the same way. It is hugely important to understand how you are and being able to understand this in such a way that you'll be able to talk to someone close to you about this. This may be a family, friend or loved one. Being able to talk about these things can really help one cope with the times that we are in. And in this time where we may not just be feeling physically isolated, but as well as mentally isolated, it is really important to have people you can turn to and discuss how you are. I'd also like to talk about identity. Now, identity is a large part of who you are and why you may be watching this video. You may have an athletic identity, or at least an identity that is inclined for exercise or being within the sporting environment that Yate Athletics can provide. The identity is a great part and this should be absolutely celebrated and cherished, as you can take real value and reward and joy from who you are. However, an athletic identity isn't everything that makes you up as a person. You can also have other identities where you take joy and satisfaction from as well. You may be a student, you could be a brother or a sister or a close friend to someone, or you may even have a certain hobby that you love to take joy from. So having a well-rounded set of identities and things that you can do can really help you adapt and overcome in the strange times we find ourselves in. For example, when training may not be going well, you can turn to other things such as your hobby or your friends and your family to take joy from as well. And when you can go back to training, you can celebrate this athletic identity in more detail and really cherish it once you know and understand who you are. Another thing I'd like to talk about is reflection. In this time, it might be useful to take a step back and think about why you participate in sport. You can use this time to think about why you enjoy your sport, why you might want to get back to training, and why this club is special and what it means for you. Is this a place you solely enjoy to train? Do you enjoy the social aspect of the club or the sense of community that it brings you? You can really use this time to have a think and reflect on all of these questions. And it's important, once you have answers to these questions, not to dwell on them, but rather have an action plan for when the club may reopen or for when you can do something about it. If you're one who likes to enjoy training, you may think about yourself, what can I do in the future? You may want to train more regularly training sessions or anything else. If you're a person that enjoys the social aspect of the club, you may want to think about perhaps talking to more people once the club reopens, or having a greater engagement with coaching and staff. Anything you think about now can really be used and reflected upon to think about an action plan you can use in the future to get the most out of your participation in sport. So I also want to talk about goals. On the back of reflecting, you may also want to take this time to take a step back and think about what goals you want to have and the reason you want to have these in participation in sport and with Yate Athletics. It is important when thinking about goals and what you want to have these set of tips to make them as useful as possible for you. You want your goals to be specific. You want your goals not to be vague but really relate to something you want to achieve. You want your goals to be measurable. You want to know when your goals have been met. You want to be able to say, I've got this time or this row, or I've taken a certain amount of joy out of this sport. You want your goals to be attainable. You want to set your bar high, but not too high. And you want to be realistic about achieving these goals, but at the same time trying to push yourself as far as you can. These goals need to be relevant and meaningful to you. These goals need to be personalised and maybe not trying to be comparing yourself to others' goals and what they are achieving. You might be thinking more about yourself than others, and it's important to do this when talking about sport. You may also think that your goals should be time-based. So knowing when the club may reopen, or sometime in the few weeks or months in the future, you may want to make sure and make a goal in place for this. It's important that this time can be used to make very impactful goals to hopefully increase motivation and enjoyment and anything you take out of your time in sport. The last thing I'd like to talk about is the opportunity for growth we have for ourselves in this time. I've talked about identities and being able to celebrate who we are and all the different aspects we have in our lives. As well as this, using reflection to take a step back and see what joy we take out from the different things we have in our lives at this moment in time. Goals can be used to set yourself on a plan of something that really means something for you. And using this time to think about all three of those things can be massively important to help ourselves and our well-being, as well as set ourselves up for a plan of action in the future. And actually setting ourselves a plan of action in the future can be a great way to increase our motivation and willingness to follow this through and really get everything we would like to out of sport and maybe life generally. Thank you for listening to this video. Hopefully you found some of the tips, tricks and advice useful so you can use them in your own life. I will also release a small infographic to go alongside this so you can read this after the video as well. Thanks for Yate Athletics for this great opportunity and platform to speak to you on, and hopefully I see you all in the future.